Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. Are you an emotional spender? Look, we're gonna go through some signs today because we tend to, as human beings, act from our emotions. And so when we talk about issues around our finances, believe it or not, it has a lot to do with our spending, sometimes our large overspending, and we do it from an emotional standpoint. And when it comes to emotional spending, this is often is correlated with credit card debt, and anyone's been there before, right? And look, if you're deep in credit card debt, we actually recently launched our How to Pay Off Your Debt course, where you can use the strategies I personally have used with hundreds of my clients who have eliminated their debt. You can check the description box below for more information. And remember, don't forget to smash that subscribe button because we're gonna talk about some of these emotional spending habits here, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. You know, Robert Kiyosaki once said in his book, I believe, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's not how much we earn, but how much money we keep. And I talk a lot about this concept, and a lot of times we go through some of the items I'm gonna bring up here around, are you an emotional spender? You'll notice that the words I'm gonna use to describe the financial aspects or emotions have actually nothing to do with finances themselves. They have to do with us, our own insecurities, our own human emotions, because emotions, as we all know, can sometimes get the better of us. Everyone at some point in their lives has made an impulsive decision, or maybe even a purchase, which we're gonna talk about that today. We've all done it. But a big part of learning, is how to ultimately save, save yourself from this pattern, if you will, right? And, a lot of people will call this mindfulness. So today I wanna really bring to the front of your mind around this. Paying attention to what you're spending on is really just another good habit about our life that we should cultivate, especially as it relates to our finances. So, are you an emotional spender? I'm gonna go through some emotions that I wrote down that I've seen from clients over nearly 2 decades of being a financial advisor. And again, this was actually born off a call that was coming in from one of our radio shows. And we're talking a lot about this, about the behavioral psyche around their spending. And they just couldn't get out of it. It was almost like an addiction. And so I was writing these down and I realized, and I just shared a minute ago, that a lot of these, you'll notice, had nothing to do with this person's finances. And likely you'll hear this for you, nothing to do with yours. So let's get into it. So the first one I wanna bring up is jealousy. Sometimes people spend to one up others. I'm sure right now you're listening or watching this and you have a little smirk or a smile and you're thinking of someone, who does that. Maybe it's you. And you're kind of thinking, but they do that. I know they do that. I've seen it. And look, always keeping up with the latest trends can actually cause a dent in your wallet, and actually has a lot of studies and empirical data around getting more to sadness and depression, something we're gonna talk about later. This whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses is such a Western way of life. So before we start thinking, I can't get out of this money mess I've been in, or I can't get out of this debt, talk about some of these things and really ask yourself, are you coming from a place of jealousy? Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses somewhere? That's something to bring up. The second one I wanna bring up here is fear. So again, as you notice, these words, they have a lot to do with our emotions and our anxieties and what we feel on a daily basis, not particularly with our finances, but what comes up through financial conversations. Very little to do with our money here. But again, fear, sometimes spending can be motivated by anxiety. People sometimes end up spending extra money to please others or stave off maybe their fear of missing out. A great example of this is my daughter, Kate. She's 5, she'll be 6 in a couple weeks. And we laugh all the time about her FOMO, her fear of missing out. Like 3 days ago, no joke, she was dead asleep. I'm talking sawing logs in our bed with my wife and I. My son comes in at like 6:30. He says something to the extent about his toe, like it was hurting. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Kate, my daughter, comes up like mummy out of the dead and just goes, "Did you say Oreos?" She has this crazy FOMO that's unbelievable. We couldn't help but laugh. She cannot miss out. I share that story simply to say that when I talk about fear and being, sometimes we spend motivated by missing out on something or just making sure that it's valuable to you, and you're not doing it and operating from a place of fear. That's important. The other one I bring up, this third one here, is sadness. We go through sad and depression and different stages and seasons of our life and all these things. And we've heard this term before. My wife says it all the time, retail therapy. Okay. It's common for many people to try to lift their spirits through a new purchase. But we know it's a material good. We know it's never going to fill the void that truly might be there. So be careful to, use money to fill a sadness void. Really, if you find that this is triggering you in this regard, I think it's important you start to seek help for this, right? And then I want to end on a performance idea here. I want to ask this from an emotional spending perspective of achievement. Similar like success we'll have, right, can make people want to treat yourself, okay? We want to reward ourselves. And sometimes it's a bit too much. We overspend and say, oh, we deserve this. And I'm not here to say you don't deserve it, but make sure that you're asking yourselves two questions, right? Is it going to serve me today, and will it not hinder me tomorrow? It's an important question, two questions really, when you talk about the whole treat yourself environment. So again, I just want to bring up some ideas that I was writing down here around jealousy, fear, sadness and depression, and achievement, more of a performance basis there. And we tend to relate these emotions that we feel every day, by the way. And when we bring that context into money, it's important that you know about it, right? Because spending isn't always rational. Trust me, you're not alone, all right? It's emotions. Emotions can cause you to spend impulsively on things that are probably unnecessary or maybe even out of your budget completely. Happens to everyone. But here's what I want to share is to try not to let your feelings control your wallet. And the way to do that is to put habitual natures and accountability inside of your routine. So I recommend to make sure, to kind of flag this one, share with somebody, make sure you talk about it with yourself, with your family. And ultimately, I do hope you enjoy these episodes. If you do, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single episode. And until next time, always remember to make your money matter.